So example 1, we started with a table of values and could do composition of functions. Example 2, we had the graphs and could do composition of functions. Example 3, again, it's the same idea, but this time we have the equations. So all of these ones, we've been putting in x values and finding out y values to help us figure it out. In A, we want to find f of g of 9. So that means we're going to plug 9 into g of x and figure out what the y value is. Now, as we, don't want to use red. As we go on further and further, sometimes we have to do a little bit more math. In this case, in A, we have to figure out g of 9. So what I suggest is, if you can't do that mental math, and you might be able to say, oh, I know it's negative 17, perfect. But if you can't do it the mental math, because some of them will get more complicated, then off to the side you might say, well, if I plug in negative 9, it's going to be 2 times 9, sorry, plug in 9. It's going to be negative 2 times 9 plus 1, which is negative 18 plus 1, which is negative 17. I'm going to do that off to the side just to figure that out, then go back to my equation, and I can plug in that when you plug in x of 9 into g, you're going to get negative 17. And now I need to plug negative 17 into f of x. This one too, I'm going to show some work, but now negative 17 squared is 289 minus 51, 238. So now I'm plugging negative 17 into f of x and figuring out what that y value would be. So once we get to the equations, the numbers can get bigger because the table of values would have had to have too many tables to have it. Our graph would have had to have been too big to be able to find all the points. But now that we have an equation, we have no restriction. Is it all right if I erase it? So let's look at part B. B wants g of f of 9. Okay? A quick look. Plugging in 9 to there, is that easy mental math? Right? So you might want to do it off to the side. Say, what is f of 9? Well, whatever you plug into f gets squared, 9 squared, and then you times it by 3. So it'll be 81 plus 27, 108. So I know that f of 9 is 108. And now I have to plug 108 into g of x. So what does g of x do? It's equal to negative 2 times 108 plus 1, negative 216 plus 1, negative 215. Same idea, now we used equations. So sometimes you have a table of values, you can do composition of functions. Sometimes you have the graphs. Sometimes you have the equations. But knowing what the notation means is the number is an x value. First of all, that x value is getting plugged into the function f. And you're finding out what the y value is. Then that becomes the x value that gets plugged into g of x. So try 6, 8, and 9.